All right. It is always a pleasure to have my next guest on the show, Joe Solecki, who's got a really exciting fight October the 2nd at UFC Vegas 38 against Jared Gordon. Joe, how are you?
Man, I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, always great talking to you, my man. And you're coming off a really big win last time out over a veteran fighter, someone that, we've both been watching since, we were a lot younger here, Jim Miller. And you went in there, you got the job done. The overall takeaway from the fight, I know a win is really all that matters, but, what can you take away from that one moving forward to make yourself an even better mixed martial artist?
Yeah, I can take away a lot. I can take away my shortcomings in the fight, which there was plenty. But also just taking away the experience of sharing the cage with somebody like Jim Miller. It's funny is the other day I was watching his media day leading up to it because I hadn't watched it, just to see what his mindset is going against a guy like me, who I'm just curious. And then I was like, wow, there's a lot to be learned from him and his approach because he fought me like he's fought everybody else. It was super tough. He didn't fade. He didn't come in a watered down version of himself or anything like that. Like it was a super tough fight. So I think being able to share the cage with him is one thing that I can take, and the other thing is looking back and now that I can go back to being a fan of his because I'm not fighting him again, is I can go back and look at his mindset and how he's had such longevity in the sport. He's somebody I really look up to in the sense of, and I said it a little bit leading up to the fight, is he's not in the limelight. He's not doing crazy Conor McGregor things out there, throwing dollies through bus windows. And he's a family man and he's a martial artist. He had a school, he teaches, he's a fighter, so somebody that I like to model myself after for sure, have longevity, but be a humble competitor at the end of the day who, from what I gathered, fights, for his competitive nature and for his family, which is the same reason I do it.
Did you ever have a moment in that fight where you're looking across the octagon from him and you're thinking to yourself, holy crap, that's Jim Miller. I mean, this guy's, really, I mean, he's one of the legends in the sport that's been around for a long time. He reminds me a little bit of Donald Cerrone, someone that is just a game opponent that just comes to fight and has been, fighting for the UFC for what seems like decades. So did you ever have that moment in that fight?
Yeah, I did. Yes, and not and people. It's funny is people always were asking like leading up to the fight, like, are you gonna have that aha moment? And I had to say no, but because what people that haven't been in there sometimes don't understand is you have that moment, but it's funny. It's not something that's like, oh no, I'm scared. It's just like this is crazy. That type of thing. And then I'm a competitor, so I'm excited to fight. So it doesn't deter you. But yeah. Because I've been a Miller Brothers fan. I know they always walked out. Both of them always walked out to two different, CCR songs. But the last time I saw him fight was right after I got signed, like 2 or 3 weeks. I was at the fights in Newark, and for a while he had stopped coming out to Bad Moon Rising. He'd come out to like a Queen song, another fun song, like 80s. So you'd tell he was having a good time, But that was the record-breaking fight that night, and he came out hood up to Bad Moon Rising. And was like walking at like this crazy pace, and I remember thinking to myself, oh yeah, this guy came to break the record tonight. Like he's here to fight. Like, oh man, that's really Jim Miller. That's vintage Jim Miller. And then I laughed and was like, all right, let's fight, And yeah, it was a fun aha moment, but that stuff's fun because then I can look and be like, this is awesome. Like, how the heck did I get here? I'm standing here fighting one of my heroes. So it's a fun thing. I had the same moment in the Wyman fight looking over and seeing Bruce Buffer announcing. Didn't make me more nervous. It was just funny going, oh my gosh, like that's not some guy with a day job who does the, regional fights on the weekend. That's Bruce Buffer. Holy crap, we're really here. So same type of thing. It was funny, and it was, again, just one of those cool moments I'll be able to, tell my grandkids about one day.
Yeah, no doubt. I got to imagine too. I mean, your confidence has already got to be pretty high, even leading up to that Jim Miller fight. But to go in there and to beat a legend, and it was a decisive win. I mean, you didn't submit him or knock him out or anything, but it was a decisive win. What does that do for your confidence? Does that just make you, I mean, it's got to be kind of like the beginning of like a realization, like of a real dream, not just to make the UFC, but to make some noise in the UFC.
Yeah, I go back and forth because I'm not somebody that like, I think I heard Justin Gaethje say it was like past toughness, like for him, because he's always in wars, past toughness doesn't equate to present toughness. Like just because he did it once doesn't mean he can do it again. Sometimes you go and you're not on that night, or maybe his chin's gone, so you never know. So I don't really look too far into that. I just know that I know who I am now. When I was fighting at CFFC or on the amateur circuit, there was all this fear, and not nerves like competition nerves, but fear that I wasn't going to be who I said I could be, or I wasn't going to do this, or I wasn't going to do that. And I just don't have that anymore. I respect fighting so much, but I'm aware of my own mortality in there. I know that anybody in this top 50 could hit me with a shot and put me out, and I know that I can, I'm never out of a fight because I can do the same thing. I can hit them with a punch, or I can grab their neck, and I think beat anybody in this division right now. And that, I think, is what I've taken from it. Is I've shared the cage with a guy like myself in Hubbard, who was an up-and-comer and one of the new guys, and I've shared the cage with Miller. And other than that funny walkout story, but there's nothing different between the two. Everybody's tough here. Everybody's a grinder. So I take confidence in that, in knowing that I'm not scared if a fight breaks out anymore. Whereas maybe on the early regional scene, I was just a jiu-jitsu guy who didn't have wrestling, who didn't have striking. And, if it strayed away from finishing somebody quickly, I didn't know if I had what it took to fight. Now I enjoy fighting, So I think that's what I take away from it. I lost the first round of the Miller fight on 2 of the scorecards. It should have been 3, I thought. But I was getting after him, but then I ended up the rest of the round on my back. So he beat me in the first round, and I came back to the corner, and I remember being like, okay, got to go out and win the next 2. And that, for me, that's the stuff I take away, is I'm comfortable in there. Not comfortable where I'm overlooking anybody. I can't look at, Miller and go, well, I beat him, so I'm going to beat the next guy, or I'm going to be champion now. I don't really care about all that. I just know that that I'm a fighter now, and that's the big thing. Is as these fights go on and on and on, I think I'm understanding more and more what it is and what it isn't. And I think you hear guys in their mid to late 30s talking like that, but I feel like because of all that I've been through on the regional scene, of the ups and downs, and also in my personal life being a father and a husband, and just feel like I'm growing, So I just feel like almost like an old seasoned vet in there for somebody with not that many miles on him.
What was the specific, I guess, game plan adjustment going into that second and third round after losing the first round? And did you feel added pressure going in there against a veteran who knew that he won the first round, and, your back was against the wall to really come out and look strong in the second?
I didn't. And that's the thing, is I keep saying this to my box coach. We talk about it a lot, and my head coach, we're talking about it too. I was like, and I don't mean this, you're not going to meet anybody more competitive than me, but I don't care anymore. I don't care. Okay, I lost the first round. I'm going to come at you in the second round, and I'm going to come out and win this fight. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to hit me with a punch and put me out. Okay, I'll be back in the gym on Monday, and I'm going to come back and climb the ranks. So for that, it just wasn't a thought in my head. Maybe, like I said, maybe when inexperience struck years ago, it would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm behind one. I just got off the stool. My coaches told me what to do. I have great corners, and they told me what I needed to adjust, and that was it. And oddly enough, losing the first round in the grappling, being kind of stuck on my back, I felt everything that he had from top, and he was throwing some good elbows and stuff, but it was nothing that I knew right there I could contend with anything he had on the ground. And my game plan switched from where I was having my success in the first round on the feet to let's put him on his back, and if I get on top of this guy, I know I can grind him away, and that's really what it was feeling his best, and knowing that I thought my best would be a little better, and it ended up being that way.
Well, congrats again on the win, man. Did you get a chance to talk and hang out a little bit with him afterwards? He seems like he'd be a really cool guy to break bread with and just kind of get to know on a personal level.
I know. I wish that would have been the case. I guess with the regulations, everybody ends up back to their rooms now, But we had a very cool, what I felt was for me, changing the guard, or a cool, oh, welcome to the UFC moment, because he was laying on his back after the fight. I kind of just smacked his chest and was like, good fight. And then he stood up. We were walking our separate ways, and I was like, used to look up to you a lot. And then I just kept walking. I was like, still do. And he was like, appreciate it. And that was it. That was the only words we shared, But that was one of those cool, okay, cool. Thank you. I just got better in here, and we shared a cage together. And while it wasn't the crazy fight that everybody had thought it would be, I think that was just because we were 2 technicians and we canceled each other out in the realm where everybody thought if it went, it'd be crazy. But when I look back on that, you said taking confidence away and stuff, is when I watch Beneil Dariush or even Pichel, or these guys that are great fighters. Jim had his moments on the ground there. They had scrambles. That's why it was a great fight. We didn't have those scrambles because they weren't there to be had. Once I had him on his back, he wasn't really working to do anything. I think because when we did scramble, I almost took his back, and I think that was kind of a wake-up call of oh, this guy can scramble too. So it was cool. It was just that aha moment of, I'm here with a legend that I look up to, and let's see if I can do half of what he's done in the sport.
Yeah, well, again, a big win there. Is this kind of like your coming out party in a sense? I mean, you've had some big wins before, but to beat Jim Miller and do it in dominant fashion, is this kind of you're really making a stamp for yourself here in the division?
I hope so. I don't really care about the notoriety or the attention or anything like that. I just want to secure myself as this is what I do. I want to be a UFC fighter for the remainder of my days until I decide I don't want to be one anymore. I want the company to know that I can hang, and I want, my family to know that we have a place here to earn a living, and selfishly, I want to go chase my dreams, of course. So that's what I want. With the media and the fans and stuff like that, the feedback wasn't as good as maybe the Hubbard fight. Just not factoring in who it was, or I think it was built as, like Dana put it out there on the if you don't know now you know, and it was going to be a crazy fight, and it wasn't that fight. But I can't look too far into that, because one day everybody loves you, the next day you're getting messages telling you you're the worst thing ever, and it was fun to laugh at. But yeah, I think for my management, it was good to see. It was my second fight with my new management, and with the upper echelon in the brass in the UFC, just to see that I am here and I've strung 3 together, and from what I've been seeing with other guys in the Contender Series and stuff, it seems to be hard to do. So can't rest on it, but it is cool to be able to have put 3 together, and then you're kind of seeing the guys that were on the season that I was on, or other guys that I know in the area that are in the UFC, like, they're coming and going. They're dropping fights off the Contender Series or getting signed and stuff like that. So, it makes me feel good, but I don't look too far into it, because, I can have 3 bad nights and then it'll be like they never had me in the UFC ever. They'll, erase my picture and take my profile to the website. So just going to keep on working.
Well, I definitely don't see that happening anytime soon. I think you're here to stay, my man. You mentioned just kind of blocking out and not really worrying so much about, what people are saying, whether it's the fans or the media, and just, staying on the grind and moving towards the next. How do you deal with that, with any of that backlash or social media hate, or people, DMing you? I know it happens a lot with fighters. They'll actually, tell you stink if you lose a fight or you don't perform at your best. Like, how do you even process that when you get messages or you see that hate on social media?
I just laugh now. It's fun to do. I don't get a ton of it, because I don't get a ton of either way. But everything I do get is usually very positive. People are generally good for the most part. Despite what the news will tell you, or the world, it's always the stuff that's the loudest that gets the most attention. But I think that stuff's the rarest. But we just laugh, we scroll, and we laugh, and like that's one of my favorite things to do, especially in COVID times, because after the fight you're stuck in the room, is to go through and laugh at all the funny stuff, whatever it may be. Oh, he's juiced up. Oh, he's this. Oh, he's boring. We were laughing in the room. It's fun. And even with John, he had the world title fight, so for him we were loving. We'd kill our time on the way to Charlotte. We got a 4-hour drive reading the comments. You're gonna die and this and that. We're like laughing, like, is it legal to murder somebody in the fight? Like, so you just got to laugh it off, because at the end of the day, if you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to have both sides of it. So it's just fun that anybody even cares. But the thing I always tell, some of the amateur guys I work with and stuff is, like, as their first and second fights are coming, even our own teammates that are there to support, our friends and family, the whole thing I was telling them with the crowd, because we had crowds at the regional fights. We don't have them at the Apex. But I'm like, the thing I was saying backstage, they had us waiting in the tunnel like a fight before, so they got to sit there and hear everybody. People were waving and screaming, and I was like, hey, what's everybody here? Even though they weren't, their response was like, drunk idiots. I'm like, exactly, drunk idiots. Like, who are you doing it for? They'd be like, not them. I'm like, exactly. So I just do the same thing. Any positive support I appreciate. We need fans. We need positive and negative, but if I ever see that, I'm like, this guy probably lives in his mom's basement. It's all good. Who hurt you, so it's all good. You just got to laugh it off.
Yeah, no doubt. Good mindset to have. Now, you did mention John Salter. I just want to ask a little bit about him. Obviously, the fight with Mousasi didn't go the way that, he wanted, or the whole team wanted. How's he doing, man? And I got to imagine he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. I imagine he'll be back in there looking as good as ever real soon.
Yeah, he's been back training it's been weeks since the fight. He's been training for weeks, That's just, that guy is just, he's as blue collar and just gritty as they come. He came back on, that Monday I had one of our cardios where we mix wrestling and pads and other stuff in, and he was back in the gym teaching class that morning, holding pads for me on Monday, so we're going to see a lot more out of John, I'm sure. And I think a lot of that middleweight division is about to get beat up, but I think that just speaks to how good Mousasi was. But, even for me to be there, it was really instrumental in my growth, selfishly being able to just kind of sit out there, and I wasn't in the corner. And I wasn't, as much, I was just a jiu-jitsu partner when I could be, but I'm small. I'm not an 85er. So being able to watch the work and then sit out almost as a fan than just a friend, and sit there cage side and watch the experience was really like I said, fighting is a lot of things, and it's not a lot of what people make it. And for me, getting to see that, it's just, we chase these, we're all on the same quest. Everybody in the UFC or Bellator wants to be the world champion, but to see that, to him, it's everything, but to those of us looking outside, like, my respect for John grew after the fight, as a man, as a fighter, as a coach, and all that. And when you're in it, you can't see that because you think everybody's going to look at you as a person that lost their last fight. And, being able to be so close, but not have the adrenaline of being in the corner or being the fighter or being the coach or whatever it is, you see it for what it is. And you're like, yeah, like, I don't like, it doesn't matter. It does matter more than anything, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme. So for me, I just, cared that my friend was happy, healthy, and got to get back to training on Monday, and he's an animal. So it was helpful for all of us in the gym, I think, to, I saw somebody comment on his post. He posted, the first thing out of his mouth on Instagram when he posted the picture, was, God has been so good to me still, or something along those lines. And somebody commented, was like, if I sound bad with this comment, forgive me, but it was worth you losing for my son to see this gracious attitude and defeat. And that's exactly what it is. And that's the kind of caliber of human being you're dealing with when you talk about the whole Salter family. So it was, he held his head high and he's back to work. And I think that says a lot about him as a man. And that's kind of what trickles down here, I think, from the head down, and he sets a great example for us, and all we can do is follow suit.
Yeah, very well said. I love talking to him. He's a great guy and a great fighter inside the cage as well. Now, I can't not interview you and ask about your family. I know that's, the biggest priority in your life. So how's everything been since we last spoke? Everything good, it seems.
Man, we've been very, very, very blessed. Yeah, my daughter's going to be a year old tomorrow. And, we had a little party for her this past weekend, and she's growing and growing and growing. I had her in the gym this week, and just watching, and she's running around. She loves watching me hit pads and stuff. And, my wife, everything's just been, my wife's birthday's coming up this week as well. So a big week in our house, and just super, super, super fortunate to have them. And that's just, I feel like she's my, I don't know if it's a muse or what it is. She's just, they're my motivation, but not motivation. Like, it's not like a high-low thing. It's just, they're there. I was doing my conditioning the other day. My coach put me through a Jeff Jimmo, and I'm looking up, and there's this little baby there in my wife's arms, and I'm like, why am I worried about what she thinks? I don't know, but I'm pushing harder, So it's just been great. And it's really put things into perspective for me, and just made me, I really feel like I'm the most professional I've ever been now. Whereas everything was running off of fumes before, and this low-level motivation of, trying to, I don't know what I was trying to do, but it was just, it was going to run out very quickly. Everything was self-motivated, and everything was maybe very materialistic of like, we got to get here, we got to do this, I got to get my name in these lights. And, when I was in the regional scene, that's what I cared about. And now I have her and I have my wife, and that's what I care about, and it's just been so eye-opening and just such a good experience. So we've been great, and summer's been good. And between training, we've been getting to the beach and just having a great time, man. It really breaks up the intensity of training. I really feel, we were laughing. I was in sparring, and it was a hard sparring night. I'm in the cage and I'm sparring, and somebody didn't call out the last minute of the round or something. I looked over, I was like, can I get the time? And I yelled at somebody. And then we finished sparring. I had a little break before I had to teach class, and I was FaceTiming, blowing kisses and stuff. And someone's like, you were just screaming at everybody like they messed up the time, and now you're blowing. I'm like, I don't know. It's just, I have a switch now where I can clock in and be a professional. It used to be I go to training, I wanted to have the perfect drive there and listen to the right music and get in my head. Now I have a switch. I just feel like an absolute professional. I can go from dad to professional real quick, and everything's just been awesome. So it's a long-winded answer, but super awesome, and just been very, very blessed.
Well, that's great to hear. You got a beautiful family, man, and happy early birthday to your wife whenever that day is. So again, congrats on all your personal success. Before we dive into this upcoming fight with Jared, I did want to get a couple of fight picks from you. The featherweight division, we got the title right around the corner, Volkanovski and Ortega. Who do you see winning that fight, and why?
I think Volkanovski. I just think he's more well-rounded. Ortega looked fantastic in his last fight, but that was a very different opponent than Volkanovski. I don't think he's the guy that you're going to snatch his neck up. I think that pace, that pressure, and he's just so good everywhere. I don't see where, unless Ortega can catch his neck in some crazy scramble, I don't really see him beating him.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. Is there any other big fights that you're really looking forward to later this year? I can tell you, for me, the 170-pound championship between Usman and Covington, that rematch, I can't wait for. And then the 85-pound belt between Adesanya and Whitaker, if that does actually happen before the end of the year. I actually heard rumors that it might happen in early 2022. Are those the two fights that you're maybe most excited about, or run me
Yeah,
through? Yeah, I guess what you're looking forward to.
I think so. I think the Usman Covington for sure, because that was just such a great fight the first time, and they just have that animosity. So you can tell they bring out, honestly, they bring out the worst and the best in each other, the worst in the interviews and the best in the fighting. But yeah, I think that's a huge one. I think the kid in me that started watching in 04, 05 is excited for Robbie Lawler and Nick Diaz, even though they're probably both past their primes. That's a level playing field still. So that's going to be fun to watch. And that's pretty much it. Anytime my teammates fight, I know Brian Barberina is going to have something coming up soon, I think. Anytime any of those guys step in there, that's what I'm excited for too. So that's pretty much it. We watch the ones that are close to home and the big names.
Yeah, a lot of great fights coming up later this year, including your fight with Jared Gordon. I like Jared Gordon. I've interviewed him a few times. He's got a great backstory. Talk about someone that's been through a lot, and here he is back. How do you like this matchup for yourself?
I like it. It's like any other fight in this division where it's a very, very tough opponent, and that's why we're here. To test ourselves against the best, to get to get with our coaches, come up with that game plan over 6-8 weeks, and chip away at it. And that's exactly what we've been doing. So I like it. Another one that's come full circle for me, because when I went to CFFC, he was the featherweight champ. I was fighting at 55, but somebody that I was always watching later on the cards. I was on the card when he got signed to the UFC. So. Again, one of those cool fights where you're like someone I have a ton of respect for, someone I know I'm in for a tough fight for, like that grind fight, where it's like he doesn't have any gaping holes. I don't think I do really either. I think we're going to really get in there and fight, So that's really exciting for me. But I like these fights where it's somebody that I have the utmost respect for, and he comes from a great camp. So it's one of those things where you go in, every fight you go in at your best, but you're going in checking every single box and then some, and that's what it's going to be for me, is going in there checking every single box, and I have to be ready to fight tooth and nail every single position for 15 minutes. There is no lapse in judgment. There is no taking a little mental time off, shaking it out. He's in your face, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah, do you expect this to be a firefight? Like you guys are just going to trade on the feet, or do you think this potentially will hit the ground and you'll be able to have the edge on him there?
I think he's so well rounded. I think there's a chance we're going to hit the ground. He seems to, even when he is cracking guys, I think he closes distance and puts him against the fence or takes him down. And very good with the ground and pound. So I think this is a fight that's going to take place everywhere. I think on the feet, on the fence, and on the floor. And the wrestling as well. So that's what we've been training for every single area. We always have our template for camp, and then we have our contingency plans and where we want to be. And we're pretty comfortable anywhere this goes. So my coaches have done a great job. Jeff Jimmo has been working with me so much on this, on just rounding out everything and really, really coming out looking a little different than I have in the past. I think, sparring's been fantastic. And this has been a time where everything's really been focused on me. And I think that's the benefit to having, the smaller camp for me is, bringing in the right guys, having the coaches watching over me every single day and checking on me, running my conditioning. I mean, I've never had that kind of attention like that. Every fight it's been more and more, but between John Salter, Jeff Jimmo, and Chris Goud, I've never had that level. They've all poured so much into me, especially this camp. So we're ready to get it done over 15 minutes.
Do you see this fight going a distance, or do you believe you'll be able to get him out of there?
I plan for every single fight to be that 15-minute grind, and chipping away at him for 15 minutes and getting my hand raised at the end. But, when you fight at that pace like he does, and I've tended to do, if a neck's out there, if I clip somebody with a shot, I always look for the finish, but we're prepared for 15-minute grind it out, get our hand raised at the end, always.
All right. And are you hoping to fight again before the year is over, or are we going to have to wait until 2022 to see you again in the octagon after this fight?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't look past this fight because there's nothing past that night for me. Things can go, so many different ways in the sense of injuries and stuff like that. I plan to go out there and win every time. And my joke is I'm always like, there's no after party because I always plan to be in the hospital. So I don't know, but the way they've had me go home was every 6 or 7 months. I'd like to fight sooner, but just focus on him for right now, and then we'll start pressing them again for another one when, God willing, we're healthy and good to go.
Awesome. Joe, always a pleasure to talk to you, my man. Before I let you go, tell people where to follow you on social media, and if you have anyone to thank, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just at Joe Solecki on Instagram and I think Twitter, and then Joe Solecki MMA, my athlete page on Facebook. that's pretty much it. And just thanking everybody that we talked about. You know, Jeff Jimmo has been pouring so much into me up at Jimmo, all the guys there, all my training partners. You know, the guys have been there, you know, helping out, offering advice. Brian Barberena, Nick Rodriguez is a pro, 5-1, fights out of Ring of Combat. He's either going to be fighting for the title soon or in a big promotion. Keep an eye on him. What a stud. Been helping me a lot. All the guys down in Myrtle Beach at Fitness Edge MMA, you know, Zach DeLeon, Brendan Hyde, Cody Jones, Jordan Weeks, all those guys always for camp after camp have helped me out. My boxing coach, Chris Gallant, out of that gym as well. And then everybody that's all dog jiu-jitsu, you know, talked about John. But we have a lot of great guys here. Just guys that are, you know, world-class black belts in jiu-jitsu that nobody would ever even hear of, you know, who are just being so helpful and so giving of their time. And then, you know, that's pretty much it. Everybody else we've talked about, my wife, my kiddo, my dogs, the whole family, man, I could not do it without them. They're my everything, you know. So just want to thank everybody that supports me. And it's been a really great camp so far, and a lot of people, you know, helping out in a lot of ways. So just want to thank them.